What's up, y'all? Welcome to Break Up with the Phone 30-day challenge. So excited to have everyone here. I'm as excited for this as anything I've ever done before. Fundamentally, I believe that reestablishing our relationship with this thing that is so central to our experience every single day is one of the most practical things that we can do to unlock deep focus, great work, and so many other things. And so a lot of what we're going to do today is, again, we're going to get into resource sharing. So very practical guides that you're going to be able to use to set up your phone, to establish your rituals, what are the best products to buy, everything that, we've mentioned in the group thus far. But one of the more important aspects, and one of the reasons why I think being on this call to get started and why it's going to be so helpful, is that we're actually going to really drill into some of the deeper reasons around why we are all here. And it's not just, I want to use my phone less. It's not, I want to have an intentional relationship with my phone. I want to be less distractible. Just if people want to chat or just throw a message in here, how many of us are familiar with Atomic Habits by James Clear? I'm going to go ahead and direct us. So just drop it something into the chat if you're familiar with that book. Julia. Hi, Julia. Diana. Yes. Alana. Yes. We've got some yeses in there. So I'm going to introduce and really ground this entire 30-day challenge into one fundamental concept called the identity model of change. So I've been coaching people for over 10 years, and I would say that this is the idea and the concept that has had the biggest impact on how I work with people in the realm of behavior change, human transformation. And so, John, can I make you a co-host so you can let people in who are coming in?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks, buddy. All right, cool. That'll let me focus a little more. So I'm going to make you a co-host. Perfect. Thank you so much, Johnny boy. Hi, everybody. Drop your location into the chat if you just joined us so we see where everyone's at. So introduction to the identity model of change. So Atomic Habits, in my opinion, one of the most important and effective books on behavior change, habit building ever written. There's a good chance that it will go down as one of the best-selling nonfiction books of all time by the time it's done, which is pretty impressive. So identity model of change. At the end of the day, humans will do the things that align with who they think they are. At the end of the day, we will do the things that align with who we think we are.
I'm joining.
And if everyone could go ahead and mute themselves, that'd be great. John, your co-host, if you could just do a perma mute on everybody so we don't have to deal with it, that'd be awesome. So what will happen is that there are 3 layers of behavior change in this model. So we have our identity. This is who we think we are. There are rituals, which is what it is that we do consistently. And then there are tactics. And so those are the things that we do moment to moment. Those are things like strategies, tools that we use. So there is identity, who we think we are. There are our rituals, what it is that we do consistently. And then there are tactics or strategies, the things that we do moment to moment. And so what we're going to do to start today is to go through those 3 things. We're going to ground into first and foremost, what is our identity, especially as it relates to our relationship with the phone. How are we relating to the usage of this device? And how is it out of alignment with those values and who we are? How is it in alignment? And the brain is a really powerful device. It's going to basically collect evidence for the stories that we're telling ourselves all day long. And so if we have a story that's unknown to us, that like, I am an easily distractible person, that I am easily overwhelmed, that I can't focus, then what happens is that every time that we take an action that aligns with that story that we may have, we just reinforce that story. And then what will happen, even though we think we don't want to, is that we will continue to express those undesired behaviors because the brain wants certainty. It wants certainty, so it wants these shitty stories that we're telling about ourselves, that we're distractible, that we can't focus. It wants those to be true. And so what we need to start with to counteract that is to really understand what are our values around phone usage, around time management, and to really articulate and be clear about what those stories are. Because what is going to happen is every single time, because tomorrow we're all going to dive into this. And so many of us are going to feel that visceral emotion of having our phone on the other side of the room. And we're going to want to pull out of the Google Doc. We're going to want to pull out of email or the Zoom chat and touch that phone, and it's not going to be there. And so what this practice is going to do right now is going to help us to understand that when I don't pick up that phone, I am reinforcing a value. And that value, I'll give you an example for me personally, is that I am a deeply intentional person. That is a value that I have about who I am. I have a value that I respect other people's time. I respect other people's time. So I know that when I don't pick up that phone, when I'm on a Zoom call, that I'm honoring that value. Like, I know that I'm here to do great work. Focus is a huge part of doing great work. So these are some of these deeper elements that we have around our identity, who I am. And we can look at these as values. And so what I'd love to do is just quickly again, so we're not going to turn this into a round table, but while we're on this, if there are questions that emerge, I just saw Joel say, Andrew looks a lot different on the playa. I know, much cooler on the playa, right? Definitely no button downs at Burning Man. What I'd love for us to do is to just see if you can get this started. And over the night, come up with a list of what are these values that we have an opportunity to express as it comes to our relationship with the phone. So these are things like, again, I value my time. I am an intentional person. I value other people's time. What are other ones that come up for you around your own values? Things that you have an opportunity to express through this relationship with the phone. And so again, just understanding, like, on an identity level, like, I value my clear mindset. Another one that's right there. Some of the other ones that I came up with when we went into this is, like, again, like, I'm here to do great work. I'm on this planet to do great work, to contribute. And when I focus, I am supporting that mission, that purpose to be here. Danny just said, I value being present. Like, how many of us here value presence, right? So what we do is that when we are clear on what these values are, we get every one of those uncomfortable moments. And every single one of those uncomfortable moments becomes not just an uncomfortable moment, but it becomes an opportunity to live and express our values. We are going to transmute the discomfort, the challenge that will arise over the next 30 days, and understand that each of those moments is a step towards us living our values. And in my estimation, that is the simplest synthesis of what it means to live a good life, is to live our values. And so that's how we're taking this small thing, seemingly, and using it as a major catalyst for behavior change and us being us in the world. So there are some great ones, again, that for us who are starting, who you want to start your list. I imagine all of us here want to be present. I imagine all of us here value our time. I respect other people. So just write a couple of those down so you have a place to start there. And then the next thing that we want to do is a little bit more of a direct goal. For most of you who are here, creators, leaders, founders, entrepreneurs, whoever you might be, I promise you that most of you have some sort of project that is on the back burner, on the side, something that is in your rear view, something that is ahead of you, something that you are really excited to bring into the world. So what is that project in your life right now that you are oftentimes feeling like you don't have enough time for? So right now, I know that I'm getting ready to write a book. And so cultivating the time to be able to work on a book and run a company full time. I need all of my time. I need as much focus as I can get there. I'm just curious to see for you, what is the specific project? Let's call it a priority project in your life right now. And it doesn't have to be professional. It could be personal. It could be building an extension. Could be just reading a book. What is the priority project in your world? So we're going to start this entire process by refining some of these fundamental values, who we are, how intentional phone uses can express this, but also just be really aware of the priority project in our lives right now that all of these intentional decisions is going to support us working on. Being financially free. Let's turn that into a more specific goal. How much do you want to save by when? Put a number to it. Make it a little more practical or achievable. A binary. Yes, I did this. No, I didn't. Perfect. So again, that's where we're starting here, is just a deeper level of purpose, is understanding who we are, how these actions are with us, and I know I'm being repetitive here, but it's important, and a priority project. So before we get into the tactics, the rituals, I really encourage everyone to be very clear, to take 10, 15 minutes to write these things down. And again, identity model of change. We do not do the things we want to do. We do the things that align with who we think we are. So this deeper level of identity and purpose is fundamental for behavior change. And so this is what this group is going to give us while we're here. Identity, now we're moving into ritual. And so ritual are the simple things that we can express consistently. Priya Parker says the difference between routine and ritual is one word, is intention. And so what we are going to do right now is layer intention into a few pivotal parts of our day. And that starts with waking up and going to sleep. And so the first ritual that we are going to establish is a 1 hour grace period when you wake up in the morning and also when you go to sleep at night. And so if you must check your messages because of work obligations or something like that when you wake up or when you go to sleep, it's fine to do a check. What I would really encourage you to do is to at least try this, where what we are all doing is waking up in the morning, you look at the time, and you give yourself a mental note that I will not be touching this phone for at least 1 hour. For me, one of the most beautiful parts about this is I wake up with my son every single day. And so I have an hour of undivided attention. For many of you who are out there who have children, I imagine that you probably have a similar experience where you're with your kids first thing in the morning. And so that 1 hour of completely undistracted time is one of the most important aspects of my day. And I now look forward to this hour. It's become a ritual. And every time we reinforce these things, we build a positive momentum. We're doing that individually. Now we're doing this collectively. So the first ritual that we're going to talk about is that 1 hour grace period when we're waking up in the morning, and that 1 hour grace period when we're going to sleep at night. So if we have a very like typical bedtime, we can just say that at a certain time every single night, it goes off. If you're a little more variable, then you're just looking ahead saying, okay, if I'm going to sleep an hour from now, then I'm getting off of the phone. And what I would highly encourage us to do, we're going to talk about the away message that you can set via driving mode. If you can, go ahead and just shut the entire thing down, put on airplane mode if you're able to. So that is the first and very simple ritual that we want to establish, is waking up and going to sleep. And so for anyone who's here, are there any questions about that morning and evening ritual? I'll keep an eye on the questions as we go through that, but that is the first one that we're going to talk about. And then the second one is really going to be at work. And work is oftentimes where we experience the most challenge, the most need to actually focus deeply on work. So we are oftentimes more drawn to distraction here than at other places in our life. And so it's incredibly important that we are setting up a very clear ritual so that when we go into our workspace, we know exactly where the phone is going. We know exactly what those settings are so that we're able to be fully present with whatever it is that needs our attention in that moment. And so I shared a couple of links in the WhatsApp, and I can share those again while we're in here. But one of the things that is most important for establishing a ritual at your place of work is having a designated location where you are going to be placing your phone. And the phone, for sure, 100% needs to be out of arm's distance. So if the phone is within reaching distance, we are going to continue to reflexively go for it in those moments where we want to distract ourselves from whatever is happening. We want to escape some moment that's challenging. So the best thing that we can do here is to simply identify what is that place in our office that makes the most sense. So what's close to a charging outlet so we can put it there. I have a beautiful little wooden block. And there's something for me that like tokenizing meaning in physical objects is really special. And so to have a physical object that my phone goes on every single day, there's meaning that I have assigned to this thing, which makes it easier and meaningful every time I take that action. So, what I would encourage everyone to do is to take a moment tonight before we get started with the 30-day challenge tomorrow and to go and to identify what is the area in my office where my phone is going to go. And what we can get in the habit of doing is that, again, and I even fail at this sometimes when I'm not really paying attention to it, is that if I get a call and I have to pick up the phone, I'll take it and I'll put it back at my desk. So what you want to do is you want to remove all charging stations or cords for your phone from your desk as well. So you only have your one charging location, which is at your designated area, and it stays there at all times. So any questions about the charging brick? I have to constantly do two-factor auth on my phone for work logins. Any thoughts on that? Yeah, I mean, I would say again that constantly, I don't know how long that is, Allison, but same thing here, depending on how deeply the phone is distracting you from deeper work. Like I would say that my phone right now is about 3 steps away from me. So it doesn't have to be far enough away where if you're taking 3 steps away from your computer, like that's going to take you 2 seconds. Is that annoying? Certainly it's annoying to be able to do that, but it's not here. But is it adding more time to your day? No, it's not. It's probably going to give you much more time. So I'd say that as long as it's out of arm's reach, mine is personally about like 3 steps away. So it's easy if I need to get to it for any reason that it's there. Yep. So I will post a link right here here is the resting space. This is just a little wooden block that has a charger port inside of it for the new iPhone. You can find a bunch in there if you're interested. And then other people, feel free while we're going through this, is that while I'm not going to open the floor for group chat right now, we'll have Q&A at the end. If you have services or things that you've used in the past that you feel can be helpful, then please feel free to drop those in the chat. I really want this to be a space where we are sharing as many ideas and resources that have been helpful for us as possible. So please feel free to add that in there as well. We have someone who is here, Jason, saying using his phone in the morning for a run. So the key word here, again, is intentional. So intentional is simply saying that we have a reason or a purpose for that usage. One thing that's incredibly important to ground into for this 30-day challenge is that technology is not evil. Technology is fucking awesome. It's allowing all of us to communicate, to connect right now. It's allowing us to build incredible things, to contribute in the world, to help like uplift people out of poverty. Technology is fucking amazing. But what happens is that the people who build these pieces of technology are very, very smart. The reward system for most of the technology that we use is misaligned. So people are rewarded for building technology that addicts us. So unless we are really intentional about how we use this technology, we will default to how they want us to use it, which is more money, more advertising for them. And so this is us basically saying pause to the architects of our digital universe and saying technology rocks, but we need to be very, very conscious about how we are using this technology so that it's supporting our life and not taking away from us living it. So yes to Jason and anyone, if there's a moment where you say, I want my phone here, have it with you. But the moments that we are trying to eliminate is that unintentional usage where we are reflexively, without thought, picking up the phone, going into social media, checking email in a moment where it is not conducive with us, or it's not useful for us doing what we need to do in that moment. Perfect. John just had a great point there for people who have to do two-factor auth. 1Password on the computer, you can plug in two-factor auth with 1Password, which is incredibly convenient for those who haven't done it before. So it will send your two-factor auth that are going to your phone directly into 1Password. So we use that for our company. It's amazing, incredibly simple. So I would highly, highly recommend that for people who have two-factor auth issues. So that's where we got started with our workspace. And so one of the things that I also want to talk about here at work, and this is really where this whole initiative started, is that for those of you who know me personally, what you'll see is during the day, you'll almost always get an away message that says like, hey, I only check my phone once in the morning and once in the evening to help me focus on what's most important in my world today. And there were so many responses every time someone saw it. They say, how do you do this? And so I wrote a little article about that and got a massive amount of feedback from people who really love that. I had more things that I'd implemented to take control of my phone usage. And so that's where we are today. And so what we're going to go over now is how to set up that away message. But there are very specific parameters that need to be followed for that to work. So basically what happens is I'm going to share a link right now. So you can either follow along and do this right now, or you can do it after we chat tonight. But this is a link about how to turn on drive mode. And I just had that. Grayscale short show. Oh, here it is. So this is what you set up in your focus settings. The only focus setting that will allow you to set up an away message is your driving setting. And one of the drawbacks of that is that it will not allow phone calls to come through unless you are connected to a Bluetooth device. And so for this to work in the workplace, it's really important that you have a Bluetooth device that is set up. So what you should do when you come into your room is you're going to go and put your phone in your designated workspace. What you're going to do is you're going to turn on your Bluetooth speaker so that you have that there. You can connect it to a phone. You can connect it to a computer at the same time, so you can play music from whatever you want. I shared a great Bose speaker that's just my favorite travel speaker of all time. I've bought like 10 of these. I've lost like 9 of them so far. They're amazing, but great sound for a small package. So I'll share that one here, which is just my favorite little speaker. So there is an auto message, I believe, on Android. I have only done it on iMessage myself. So there is the one that I've just shared here is for iMessage. But if you do a Google search, I do believe that there's an option to do this on Android. As I was getting that link earlier today, I saw that there was an option for Android as well. I just shared the link for that Bluetooth speaker. If you're looking for a good one, it's only $100. So there we go. So we're walking into our office. We're putting our phone into our designated area. We have an actual tokenized, meaningful place where we're going to put that. We've set up our Bluetooth speaker. So a really important thing to understand here as I started to set up the away message is to really understand that anyone who needs to talk to me is going to call me, because on that away message, I say, if you need to speak to me for any reason, call me and I'll pick up. So what I know intellectually is that if anyone truly needs me, if there's any emergency where someone is texting me, they are going to see that message and they are going to call me. I know that I'm going to be able to get that call because I have a Bluetooth speaker that's hooked up. And so anytime I would go into my messages after setting that up, I would feel so silly, and it would reinforce just the addiction of my phone and going to it, because I knew I did not need to go there. Anyone who had messaged me was completely happy and fine to wait. It was only my addiction to the phone and checking it that was bringing me back in there. So once we establish that, there's a big mental shift that happens. And so this is a huge one to really change how we're using the phone at work. Any questions about, Diana says the speaker is the best. Yes. I actually just lost, I said I've only lost 9 of them. I think I actually lost my 10th at Burning Man just now. So great, but tiny. All right, cool. So there's where we have the Bluetooth speaker. Another one, and I would say that when I started to kind of be more conscious of intentional phone use, a little trick that I would do to like almost just like delude myself is I would leave iMessage on my computer. And so a really important one that we also want to take care of is if you're working on a computer or a Mac lapbook, you basically want to make sure that you have iMessage turned off so that you're not getting those notifications on your computer as well, because you'll just get lost right into those. What's the message your autoresponder sends about checking the phone? So what I will do is I shared this previously in the group. So I will actually send my exact message. You know what? I'm sure that someone here has probably seen that today as well. So I will share my exact autoresponder so you can see what I share. So I'll share that in the chat before we're here, and also share that in the WhatsApp group. So you guys all have that, and feel free to rip that, to amend it as you see fit. It's open source away message. Cool. So now we've got all of our daily work rituals set up in terms of how we are approaching the phone while we're there. And one thing that I want to be really clear on is that right now, what we are focused on is our relationship with our phone. And I want to acknowledge that there are a ton of other distractions that happen at work, email, Slack, social media, we're going to touch on briefly, but mostly about how we're using it through the phone. We have one service that we're going to introduce that is incredibly helpful. What I'm going to do over the month is I'm actually going to have guest speakers who are going to come in, who are going to talk more specifically about time management at work and really thinking about things like time boxing, email, Slack usage, and other kind of like websites while you're at work. So I know some great people who are really experts at that. And so they're going to come in and drop some insight on some of those things as well. But today, and really to get started, this is purely and mostly focused on our relationship with our phone. Great. So, any questions on the work setup before we move on? Going once, going twice. Okay, sold. So the next thing that we want to set up is actually looking at the setup of our phone itself. And so this is huge. There's three things that we're going to talk about when it comes to it does not work for WhatsApp messages. I cannot help you there. One thing that I am going to be doing for WhatsApp and other things is we're going to talk about how to turn off unnecessary notifications. So me personally, I'm not really using WhatsApp for professional interactions as much. I know that for those of you who have international roles, there may be a difference there. So we can get into the nuance there, but I have not found an autoresponder that works for WhatsApp yet. One of the things that I think is helpful for WhatsApp is that if you need people to know whether or not you've seen their messages, if you want to be able to leave it, is that WhatsApp defaults to kind of read messages on. And so if you are not checking your phone, you're going to be able to know that that person won't see those blue checks. They'll know if you haven't seen it yet. We got some fun questions in here about alarm clock. I can share one that's in there as well. I have a great one that mimics a sunrise and plays classical music. So I will just add a reminder to myself to share mine in there. But again, alarm clock is a huge one so that you are not using your phone for alarm clock if possible. That's a great note. So thank you for dropping that one in there, Anna and Tristana. Perfect. Cool. So the first thing we want to talk about is setting up the home screen. So setting up your home screen, if you just everyone just take a moment I put my phone here so I can show people. If you just take a moment to look at your home screen right now, just look at it and take stock of the apps that are visible on your home screen right now. How many of those apps on your home screen are the ones that you find yourself checking thoughtlessly or reflexively? How many of the apps that you see on your home screen are the one that you pick up, you start digging into, you get lost into without actually wanting to be there, doing that intentionally? So for a while, that was me. You'd see Instagram, you'd see WhatsApp, you'd see so many other services that draw me in there. And so one of the first and easiest things that we can do to kind of change our relationship with the phone is I'm going to put this up here. So this is an example of what my home screen looks like. So in the bottom, you have a phone so I can answer. You have a notepad. You have a camera. You've got Spotify. I have my task manager for work. I've got my meditation apps. I've got just the utilities of map, of clock. So what you want to do is take stock of your homepage and make this purely a utility page. What are the things that you truly need easy access to in the moment for convenience? Or also, what are the apps? Like for me, meditation, I want those to be the first things that I see every single day. So literally those are right here. Those are the first two that I see. So one of the simplest things that we can do to start is just to go ahead and look at our home screen and change that around so that you've removed all of your non-essential apps from your screens. If you want to take an extra step there, there's actually a way to remove an app from any of your sliding screens. So the only way that you can find it is actually if you're searching for it. That's just an added layer of hiding these things. And what happens is that when we're hiding these services that we don't really want to use reflexively, asking ourselves to go into the search bar and to search for it, for find it, is just giving us a little more time to ask ourselves the question, do I really want to be here? And in those moments, we can oftentimes have more agency to stop if we don't truly want to be there. We got a bunch of TikTok, bunch of Instagram. So there we go with the home screen. Any questions about editing the home screen? I imagine at this point, most of us know how to move apps around our phone, but any questions about the home screen before we move on to the second one, which is a little more tricky and not so many people know about? All right, cool. So I'm going to just hold mine up one more time for people who want to see it. Feel free to screen grab that, do whatever you want. So that is my home screen. Cool. So the next one that we're going to talk about is something called color filters. I'm curious if anyone has color filters already set up on their phone. It doesn't sound like it, so cool. Yep, a couple. So basically what color filters does, and I'm going to show you this in real time, is one of the reasons that we use these things so much is because they look so cool. They've been designed to be these little serotonin slot machines that we always want to pick up. And so all of the colors, all of the designs are as good as anything that's being designed anywhere in the world. And so when we look at it, it's just flashy, it's engaging, it draws you in. And so here's what color filters will do with 3 clicks of your sidebar. 1, 2, 3. So now my phone is just black and white. Still beautiful, but not nearly as engaging. And so cognitively, when we have this interface that is not as engaging for the mind, we're not going to be as drawn to it. So it's a small thing, but especially as we're diving into this 30-day challenge together, this is going to be something so that all day, especially while we're at work, when we've turned this on, it's a note to ourselves. Oh yeah, I am doing this because I'm here to do great work, because I value my time. I value my friends' times. I value presence. And so when we see this, it's going to be another just cognitive reminder that we're using our phones intentionally for this month. And so to set up color filters, it's actually quite simple. You just go into your accessibility settings, and I'm going to add another link in here for everybody. So this is going to show you how to set up color filters. So that's going to show you how to turn on your color filters, and it's going to also show you how to set up that shortcut. And what I would highly encourage you to do is that, you know, if you do want to use, because again, I like Instagram is an amazing service. I'm a photographer. I love it, but I only want to use it when I really want to use it. And so if you want to turn off grayscale after work, if you're going to use Instagram to go and like watch sport videos, to go and look at people dancing, whatever it is, go for it. Don't watch it on black and white. That makes no sense. But when you go into your office in the morning, when you pick up that phone, when you put it into your workspace, this is another signifier that we're going into focus mode, is to just do 3 clicks on the side of the phone and to put it back where it's supposed to go. Great. So that is grayscale. Any questions about grayscale? Cool. Doesn't sound like it. Going once, going twice, and sold. So now we are going to talk about turning off unnecessary notifications. So I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to pick up your phones again. This is something I will seldom do for you over the next 30 days. So pick up your phone and just scroll through a couple of your pages. And then what I'll invite you to notice is how many of those little red notification bubbles do you have all over all of your app boxes? Do you see them everywhere? What are they on? So what we notice is that when we download all of these apps, we download them with notifications on. And again, this is because the people who are creating their apps are being paid for you to use them more. So they're going to do pretty much anything within their power to get you back into that service. And a big part of that are these notification badges. But one thing that we need to ask ourselves is, do I really need to know if there is new content on Hulu? Do I really need to know if someone posted something about Star Wars on Quora? It's even if we look at things like our text messages, if you look at social media on Instagram, for sure, do not have notifications on your social media. Like, just don't do it unless you are an influencer and that's a part of your world and you need to consistently engage. There's a totally different conversation for people who are using this as a professional medium. But turning off our notifications so that we don't have those on our apps, we aren't going to be able to help ourselves if we constantly have these red bubbles that is like literally an alert, right? It's a red bubble saying there's something here that needs your attention. And so going through notifications, this is a longer one. Jason says he doesn't know how many red he has because he's on grayscale now. Apologies, and you're welcome at the same time. So go ahead and read this one that I got from Business Insider. This is the one that I used when I set mine up. And so it's very simple. You're going to be able to go into your notifications. You're going to ask yourself, do I really need to see social media? Almost always you don't. But this is just like one simple device that's going to make it easier for you to not dive into these apps reflexively when you don't truly want to be there. So that is setting up your notifications. Any questions about setting up notifications on your phone? Okay, I think that we are all good there. And then one more that I wanted to address is really on social media, where I would say probably for most of us, social media is the major culprit where we end up finding ourselves diving back into social media when we don't really want to. And so a big question and thing that we can start with is that I'm going to send an article here because I promised that I was only going to take, about 30 minutes. I wanted this to be short. And then a lot of this is going to be links that are going to walk you through this afterwards. So what I'm going to share with everyone right now is a link to a service called Freedom. And so Freedom is a great mobile and web service. And what it does is it allows you to put time controls on any of the services that you do not want to be using. And so again, what this is going to invite us to do, and I think that this is a 30-day challenge. It's a big commitment. It's going to be a big transformation if we do this. So there's going to be a little bit of groundwork to get us there. And so one of the first things that I'm going to invite us to do is, so we're all on the same page, is use, let me get this for you. So what I'm going to invite and request everyone does is, if you have time tonight or first thing tomorrow morning, ideally tonight, is to go through, and what we're going to do is we're going to identify what are those trouble websites for you. For me, really the only one is Instagram, where I get sucked into that and then I get into Explore and I'm looking at things that aren't really useful to me or that I look back with any sort of kind of like redeeming quality. So what this is going to do is to actually identify what are our ideal usage times on these platforms. And something to think about this is, again, it's like entertainment is beautiful and meaningful and can be useful, but also being really conscious of how much of it is going to be something that is useful and enjoyable for me. Like, I want people to be able to watch Netflix, to watch Instagram, to cry tears of joy watching Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is fucking the most amazing movie. But just to go into the week being, hey, here's how much I want to use these applications, especially in the realm of entertainment and social media. So if you go through there, I'm going to share another link which helps you identify what your times, your desired times are on those websites. And then another thing that I find to be very helpful is, if you really wanted to go for it this week, and really, for me, my most generative relationship with social media is really when I am creating and when I'm engaging with people who are engaging with what I'm creating. That's when I find it really useful. Most of the time when I'm exploring there, it's a distraction and there's not a great deal of value in it outside of looking at surfing videos. But I need 5 to 10 minutes to watch surfing videos a day and I'm happy. If I watch surfing for 10 minutes a day, good. I'll feel great about my relationship with Instagram there. So this is where we're going to get started there, set that up. Another thing that we can do with these apps is, especially with TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, is to make it annoying to use those things. And so a simple practice there is simply deleting them when you're done using them. It's not that hard to re-download these things. It's essentially like a 45 to 60-second practice to download one of these and sign in again. So all I would say is, we were talking about two-factor auth with Allison earlier. Is that annoying? Yes. But in the long run, will that extra 45 to 60-second pause before you end up using this app be generative for you and your relationship with that medium? So especially for those of us who would identify as a phone addict, as a social media addict, adding that real pause in there, giving us a moment to choose thoughtfully is really helpful. So that's another thing that we can consider doing this month while we're going through this. So those are the three things that we really want to set up today, if possible. Cleaning up the home screen. We want to turn on color filters so that every day, especially when we're going into work, we're on black and gray. And then we want to turn on our, we want to turn off our notifications so that we're removing all of those red badges that are not essential for what we need to do. And so now the phone has been cleaned up a little more. And then one other thing that I wanted to share here was just like my lens on distraction and what is that. And so again, as we start tomorrow, what is going to happen is our phone is no longer going to be right next to us. We're going to have the frame set up of how we want to relate to this thing intentionally. And so there are going to be moments where we find ourselves craving, where we find ourselves wanting this welcome distraction from ultimately our own experience. And so what is distraction? Distraction is the subconscious urge to escape our present moment experience. So a distraction is just a subconscious urge to escape our present moment experience. And so one of the really powerful things that all of us are going to have an opportunity to navigate is simply becoming more present with our experience moment to moment. And I can assure you that in that is great power. The ability to be with our experience without needing to escape it. There is so much wisdom available in that if we can learn to tolerate some of that discomfort. And this is an infinite game. We're not going to fix this. This is something that we will continue to strengthen for the rest of our lives. But this skill, and why I'm so excited for this challenge, is because, again, this distraction that we feel so viscerally is going to have such a complement and parallel to everything in our lives, in our relationships, right? With our work. It's the more that we can simply stand in discomfort, be with it, inspect it, extract the wisdom that is available, the more capable we are of relating with every externality in the world as ourselves. And so there is great power in that. And just a thing that I wanted to offer here about the value, again, in distraction, that we can learn to relate to that discomfort as something that is inherently a positive to be with, is to notice that discomfort and to say, being with this is me reclaiming my own power. If we can just acknowledge that being with this discomfort is a reclamation of my own power. It's like, again, it's much easier for us to be there when we have this identity piece, right? I'm reclaiming my power by doing this. So that comes back full circle to where we started with identity, and why it is that we're doing this is that reclaiming our identity with the phone is not just to create some desired behavior. It's because this is a very practical way to express some of the deepest, most fundamental values about ourselves. And then it's also a way for us to create more energy and more space to contribute and put our time into the projects, into the people, into the communities that need us. So I am so excited to do this as much as anything I've ever done. I'm so excited to have, I think, 170 people in the WhatsApp that are doing it with us. And so before I let you go, and I'm going to stick around for 15 more minutes for any questions that come up, but I do just want to establish a couple of ground rules for the group chat. These are really important to me for this to be a really safe, a really grounded and useful exploration for the next month. So first ground rules is this is going to be a confidential space. And so you're welcome to talk about your experience here, but I would really appreciate that you not use any names of anyone else who's in our group when you're talking about it. So confidentiality is really appreciated. So everyone's free to express themselves as they like in here. Number two is we're creating a respectful framework So there is going to be no tolerance for judgment or shame-based communication in our threads. Someone shares something you don't agree with, you can share how that makes you feel. You can talk about first-person experience, but everything that you are sharing here, I would appreciate you sharing it through first-person experience. I used this and it helped me here. So if we can share our experience, I promised you we're going to have the most productive conversations possible. And then outside of that, I also want to make sure that for the WhatsApp group to really honor what it is that we're trying to do here, I would appreciate if most people would try to not post into the WhatsApp group during their working hours. So I would like this to be a digest that we see filled in the mornings and in the evenings, but I would not like this to be a thread that is actively engaged throughout the day. I think that that would be counterproductive to the whole idea of what we're doing here. So if you can, please try and concentrate your usage and contribution in the WhatsApp group to the mornings and the evenings. We're all over the world, and so it doesn't make sense to give specific hours, but roughly let's try not to be in this chat during the day. Will be really useful. Let me see if I had anything else there. Yep. Yeah, I will add the agreements directly to the WhatsApp group after we get here. So I've got another thing right here. So the agreements. Perfect. Jeremy already asked that question. We just addressed it. So there we go. Also, no tolerance for spamming. So personal products, personal promotion, just something that won't be tolerated here. So let's go ahead and avoid that. But those are the basic ground rules. And then just to bring it all home, like, why is this something that I want to do? I want to do this because I really do believe that cleaning up my relationship with my phone is one of the most practical ways that I can imagine transforming my relationship with presence. As I have grown as a coach, as a human, as a father, everything, it's that I find that so much of my ability to impact the world in a positive way comes down to my ability to be present. And this is one of the primary catalysts that takes me away from that. And the way that I learn most effectively is by teaching. And it brings me such great joy to do this. It forces me to refine my own ideas in a way that is valuable to other people, which makes them intrinsically more valuable and memorable for myself. And so this is something that I'm sharing in real time because I'm excited about it, because there's some very practical, easy to do things here. And one of my favorite stories around this is my friend Mark Hyman. He did an experiment with, his name is Bill, perhaps someone knows his name, I'm forgetting it right now. He's one of the largest mega church pastors in Houston. I don't know why I'm forgetting his name, but they found out that a really large contingent of their congregation was obese. And they realized that it wasn't Joel Osteen, it's another guy, I think it's Bill. He's got a big beard. And what they realized is that this was a real threat to their congregation, was that, I think it was like over 50% of their congregation was obese. And so what they did is they teamed up with Mark and the Cleveland Clinic. And this was one of the first trials of what they're calling basically like their community healing initiatives, where essentially what they do is they had people that they were giving the information to be on a diet. But then what they did here is they created these support groups where people could come together to talk about their challenges, to celebrate their victories. And the results of these community healing initiatives just obliterated anything that they had ever done in individual patient care. And fundamentally, when you look at like healthcare costs in this country, which are fundamentally unsustainable with the rate of our population growth and the increasing costs, it's that this is an innovative health model that is becoming more popular and just essential to actually provide important care to people who need it. Is that there's a lot of research that backs up the impact of community engagement in behavior change, whether that is health, whether that is social. And a big part of that is, we started this entire conversation talking about identity. At the end of the day, we will do the things that align with who we think we are. And what happens is that when we are in a community of people who are able to reflect who we are right now, right? It's like you think about that church in their communities and their families, people who are obese are mostly around other people who are obese. And they reflect the identity to that person of them being obese. But the second that they opt into a community of 100, 1,000 other people who are taking control of their health and saying, I am a healthy person because I love my family, and I'm not going to be alive if I continue to eat poorly, and I can't do the work that I love, or I can't be a dancer if I'm unhealthy. You surround them in a community of people who get to reflect that identity, then it's even more powerful, because now they're able to accept that identity about themselves even more because it's being reflected. And so a really cool part of this is that we have a community of 170 or so right now. But in this engagement, I hope that it can be a place where all of us really do get to acknowledge that, like, we have busy lives, we have a lot going on, but all of us are here for some important reason to take this step for ourselves. And so to be able to engage with each other, to be able to, like, not only share resources, but if something happens and we have a real victory, or we feel something shift in us where I don't even want to look at Instagram anymore, and you want to share that victory and be seen in that, fucking go for it. Because sharing your victories here creates other space for other people's to share their victories. If you want to share your challenges and ask for insight or advice, then that's going to make it easier for other people to share their challenges. And so let this be a space where we can all contribute whatever we think can be valuable and of service to other people. And I'm really excited to see what unfolds over the next 30 days. So tomorrow, wherever you may be, I'm very excited to dive in with everybody. I'm going to share some follow-up links in the chat, so we have everything there. I'll share this recording. I'll share the agreements, and if there's anything else that I missed, feel free to let me know. And yeah, and I've got a couple extra minutes, so from there, I'm going to go ahead and open up for Q&A, and we should be good to go. But thank you all for joining, and I'm excited to see where your journey takes you. Do you keep messages app on your home screen? 100% no. Definitely don't keep messages there. I only want to go there when I'm really, that's the one that where messages won't just take you into messages. It's a portal into the phone. And then you pick up the phone and you get lost in other things. So for sure, put that one out of there. Cool. We got a bunch of thank yous. Hi, friends. See some familiar faces in here. Great, thanks. Hi, Jay. I sent you another Tushy competitor that popped up on Kickstarter.
Ooh, thanks. Appreciate it.
Burn it down. And also, one of the things, I actually didn't mention this one. This is kind of an optional one. I'm just going to share a link here. One of the things that I think is so helpful is, especially while I'm at the computer, because we're not machines, it's very reasonable to want a distraction from work, right? There's a service you can use called Pomodoro, which tracks you for basically a 15-minute work period and then a 10-minute break. And so what I would say is also to be intentional about where you want to allocate your energy when you're not working, when you're not focused, is that having a physical book near you that you want to read will actually give you an entertainment outlet that you find valuable. So if you can, especially while you're creating this really intentional workspace for the next 30 days, if you can put a book that you're excited to read, to consume, that would be a super helpful thing to have as well. So I'm sharing the link in here for Atomic Habits. For those of you who have not read it, I would highly recommend it, and will beautifully kind of soundtrack a lot of the stuff that we're going to be talking about over the next 30 days.
Andrew, I have a question.
Go for it, Danny. Hey, buddy.
Good to see you, man. Thank you so much for this. If you have to use Instagram, let's say, for your business, what I oftentimes find is, like, I go in with one intention, and next thing I know, I've been in a hole for like 15 minutes, and I'm like, what the fuck? How did that just happen?
Yeah.
Do you ever set an intention before you go on Instagram or like any kind of social media app? Is there a way that you work around so you kind of go in with like what you want to go in with instead of getting pulled?
Yeah, well, I think what's really important to identify there is, like, is there a way to time box your work in that medium? So one of my friends, Nick Sonnenberg, and like I'm gonna try. He has a podcast called Less Doing, and like when it comes to optimization and avoiding distraction, he's one of the best in the world. But one of the things I learned from him was like really time boxing, like why we're in that application. So I know that with social media, there's a distinction around engagement and needing to communicate with people. I don't personally know the specifics of immediacy and how that like parlays into the algorithm. But if you can say that, like, I know your business and I know that you do need to be there, but just saying that, like, I'm going in for this much time, like, here's my slot to do this work, and then I'm out. Like, it's just like, I only enter into that platform for this much time a day. One of the things for me that is helpful is trying to relate to email that way, where, I've even put up away messages that say, like, if you need to catch up with me immediately in my footer, just call me, has been something that I found helpful for work, because I will find that most of the stuff that I have in email, it is asynchronous. I don't need to be fully engaged with that, like in the moment. I have a call out that's there. So I'd say, like, if there is a way to just really say, I'm only going to spend, this is my time, where I'm intentionally going in at 10 o'clock. And I just think that, again, if you're allowing yourself to go into Instagram at 10 a.m. every single day, and that's where you do it, there's a clear purpose and intention going in. But also, if it's just open, then a little task in Instagram is always on the table for the brain, right? And we can just like distract ourselves and say, like, oh, like, well, it's good to engage with someone who commented on my post. So you just go in there. But what it does is now it's taking you out of any sort of cadence of deeper work, which is so much of what we're trying to cultivate here. Is, again, it's that the longer that we're able to focus on things, like, the deeper we're going to be able to get into that, and the stronger our work is going to be. So as much as we can time box within those certain applications, the better our work there is going to be.
Love that. Thank you.
Cool. Any other questions?
Andrew, I've got one.
Yeah, who's that?
Jason,
Hey, Jason.
what's up? So I took all of my notifications off a long time ago, but I cannot get the annoying buzz when somebody texts or calls you disabled. Do you know a hack for that?
Yeah, there's something called, I believe it's haptics, but there's definitely a way to do that. So if you go to notifications, and then it's going to be in accessibility again.
Okay,
So
I'll hack around a little bit.
Go to accessibility, because I was just in there looking at the color thing again. But if you go in for accessibility, I'm pretty sure that there's like vision, hearing, and some of those things that are in there. And so there should be a way to turn off the buzz.
Cool.
But it's not
Thank
going to
you.
be in like Ringer or anything like that. It's going to be in accessibility. That's where you
Okay.
can change a lot of like the audio, the visual stuff.
Cool.
I have a question.
Hi, Melissa.
Hi. I typed this in the chat, but I was wondering if you have any strategies for actually digesting all of the notifications that you got throughout the day, because I have a story that I have too many friends and amazing people in my life that want to get a hold of me all day long. So I'm just inundated with notifications, and I really care about these people and I really honor them. I want to respond and I want to engage in conversation, but I find that at the end of the day, if I waited for all of them, I would be ping ponging like 300 different conversations like all night long. So, any advice or tips there on maybe time blocking or like not being so
Yeah,
cool? I don't know.
I totally hear you. I mean, my experience of it is that when I am able to truly turn off for the entire day and I come back to my text messages, and I'd be lying if I said this differently, but like when I do my hour in the morning, I'm not checking my phone. I know exactly what the time is, and I'm really excited to check my text messages. It's like a slot machine. It's fun to check those. It's little dopamine hits. Like, we can be honest about it. So I really look forward to it personally. What I would say is same thing. So let's say that you turn off your notification, or you turn off your autoresponder, you see everything that's come through till 6 o'clock. The one thing that will have been established by the time that those people reach you is that you only communicate once in the morning, once in the evening, and if they really need to get in touch with you, they will call you, right? So, like, that those messages that are coming through are non-essential in a way. And so I say that that's one layer that's there. But then also fundamentally, if you're focused on a task, your brain is going to become more available for that task. And so I would say that practically speaking, the time that you take to answer all of those messages is going to be the same, if not quicker, ultimately, if you're doing that all in one dedicated kind of like blast. So I would say that, yeah, I think that, they know that you are not spending time on your phone fundamentally because they're getting that message. So there's a layer of understanding that's there. And also, I would say that I think that you probably would end up doing it quickly and spending less time on it if you're doing it more at the end of the day.
Thanks.
But also, congratulations on having too many awesome friends in your life that you can't keep up with. We might have to cull the bottom like 20 there. We can talk. That'll be our next workshop. How do we turn non-essential friends, acquaintance into deeper friends? It's a great question, Chris. That was honestly like where I was going there.
I was halfway kidding with that question, but I'm
No, but
saying
I think it's
that. I
real.
mean, it's like Mark Manson's book, like The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. It's like don't give a fuck about the things that you shouldn't give a fuck about, so that you can have more time to actually give a fuck about the things you should give a fuck about.
Yeah.
And so the question is, if we have a certain number of like acquaintances or like just text message friends, how do we either turn them into like more like FaceTime or call time deeper relationships, or just like fucking cut them out, like Jack Welch management style, cut out the bottom 20%, tank the GE stock, call it a day.
Well, what I would say is that, I think that this is actually a practice that, while we don't need to be so cutthroat, like Jack Welch, just for those who aren't familiar with the reference, Jack Welch kind of like invented this management style where basically at the end of I forget if it was quarter or year, he would just fire the bottom 10% of performers in the company, always, regardless of company performance. And so, like, while we don't need to necessarily drop people, I do think it is really helpful for relieving some stress on ourselves to understand what are the relationships that are most important to me. And so I cultivated a practice through this men's retreat that I used to lead retreats with Danny, who's here, where it helps us to identify the important relationships in our life. And so it's a simple practice where, when I think about really meaningful, especially friendship or relationships, a great way to define those is simply to say, who are the friends that I am most intrinsically or naturally called to support? Who do I just want to be there? Who are the people that I want to support, that I want to help, that I want to be there for? And so if you use that as a definition of friendship, the next step in that would simply to be do an audit and just write down everybody who you're called to support as a friend. So just write down the names of all of those people on a list. And then what you do after that second step is you would then look at that list and you would rank all of those people on a scale from 1 to 10. And 10 means that you are a super friend, you are showing up fully, you are BFFs, you love each other, no questions. And then a 1 is, I haven't talked to them in months, I don't know how they're doing. And so basically this is ranking yourself on how present of a friend you are becoming. And so what this will do is identify, number one, who are the people that I want to be supporting? And in my estimation, like, those are the people that you want to cultivate friendships with, because if you naturally want to help people, they'll likely reciprocate that type of service, which is kind of an upward spiral. But also, if you just want to be there for someone, there's a lot of kind of transitive properties that go along with that I think are important for good friendship. And what it does is it shows us, here are the relationships that I need to prioritize that are really important for me. And if people are not on that list, that are not that important for you, that there is a distinction to be made. And this is more art than science, right? Of like, how do we cultivate the deeper relationships? How do we cut the bottom ones? But I think that there's just a layer of identifying to ourselves that if someone is reaching out who's on that list and that you're not showing up for, that's the first one that you reach out to, right? If someone's reaching out who's not on that list at all, in some ways, it's okay to let people down so that we can be of service to ourselves and to the people who really matter for us. Because fundamentally, we won't be able to meet everybody where they want to meet us. So Therese just said, I want to offload. So we had some, well, it was a direct message. I didn't see that. So I will not share that. But so I think that, and this is a conversation that, again, we can have a conversation, these types of things like in the chat, I would really welcome for deeper stuff there. I've got to hop off. So that is going to be it for today. So any other questions, feel free to throw those in WhatsApp. This has been awesome. I'm happy that we got to do it. Thank you all for taking the time to chat today. And let's do it. Like, take this time to, again, like, prepare yourselves. Like this, it will be likely a big shift for a lot of us. And so just really take some time to think about what it is that we're going into. And I promise you that if you've ever gone through like a massive diet or fitness regimen before, like the feeling that you had at the end of that, I think that this will be like that on steroids, because the feeling of being okay, being with ourselves moment to moment, being able to wield our attention on what matters, there's so much power in that. And then as soon as we have that embodied feeling, it's going to be so much easier to make the decisions that we know support that feeling. So, so there we go. That's it, everybody. Break up with your phone. 30-day challenge starts tomorrow. I will see you all in WhatsApp. Night.
Adios.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Bye, y'all.